Good morning, adventurers, and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm super excited because I am waking up and I'm going to share one of the things that I personally enjoy doing while I'm on the road. I have one go-to breakfast option that is pretty simple, but a lot of you have asked me a lot of questions about it. So I thought, why not wake up this morning and share with you guys how to create one of my favorite simple breakfast options, but also address a few of the questions that you all sent in to me on a Q&A. So today, that's what we're going to be doing. We're going to be setting up right over here, and I'm going to share with you how to create a mountain house meal. Now, this again is a great breakfast solution for getting you going, especially if you have a super active day ahead. And so this is one of my favorites on days that I like to go hiking. So I hope that you enjoy coming along to learn how to make this, but also to hear some of the answers that I have for you guys. So are you ready? Get your little raccoon hands ready, and let's go eat using our best raccoon walk. So I thought today, since I'm showing you this, we would take it all the way back to where I began, because some of your questions actually start there too. So today we're bringing out the old backpacking stove that I carried with me for the first 3 years of travel. Now this thing was super reliable, super handy, and made a lot of mountain house meals along the way. So I thought, what better way to kind of show you guys what's going on than with this little setup right here. Now this little setup just runs off of a regular propane or butane cartridge, and then it is a little camping stove like this. Now in order for you to make a mountain house meal, all you realistically need is just some hot water. So today we're going to attach this, and then we're going to boil a little bit of water so that we can make our breakfast. So I'm going to get to work doing this, and then I'll catch back up with you guys in just a minute. Okay, now that that's complete, it's time for us to pour a little bit of water into our camping pot. And I really always liked this camping pot. I could do everything from like hot chocolate and mountain house meals to regular food too. So this was always a win-win for me. So it's nice to get this thing back out and have it in the setup today. Now I'm just pouring some just regular water into here, and I always like to do a little extra because typically I kind of go with my gut when it comes to the actual measurement, but then I use whatever's left over for some hot tea, so I never mind heating up too much water. So while we're doing that, now let's get to a couple of questions, but first let's start the fire. Let's see. Okay, come on, you can do it. You can do it. It's been a while. It's been a while, but we still got fire. Believe it or not, this thing is burning hot right now. So we're gonna turn the gas down just a little bit and set this on top. And that's all we have to do. Now we just sit and wait. So while we're sitting to wait, I thought what better time to bust out the computer right here and to talk to you guys a little bit about some of those questions. In the meantime, we're getting ready for this breakfast skillet. That's gonna be oh so good. So the first question that we're going to be answering today is actually from Tanya Del Rio. Tanya writes, what is your best tip for someone who wants to travel a little bit more but doesn't have a lot of extra money? Well, Tanya, I am glad that you asked. My channel started out as a travel channel that wanted to support others who might not have always had the most money to spend. In fact, for the first 3 years of my travels, I would work and then go on the road, and then work and then go on the road. And I would just save up whenever I could so I could have epic adventures. I started to learn along the way that you can have some pretty big adventures on a very small budget. There are tons of free sites out there that are available to us all, and I encourage you to explore free sites in fill in the blank, wherever you're wanting to go. That's the first thing that I always do. Also, if you are wanting to camp, there are tons of free places that you can camp on public lands. In fact, if you look up the Bureau of Land Management or the Forest Service, you can find there are tons tons of spaces out there that you can stay absolutely free. I say free, but realistically, our tax dollars are what pay for those sites so that we can have access to them. And so you're paying your taxes, so those are your lands to use. So get out there and try it out. Also, whenever you're planning your travels, apps like Gas Buddy can be super handy for finding the cheapest gas whenever you're on the road. Places like Hopper can allow you to find cheaper flights. All of those different things are available to you, and all you have to do is just kind of start deep diving a little bit. But there are tons of things out there. Thank you, Tanya, for that question. Now for this next one, we have a question from Tiara Kennedy. She asked, what kind of music do you listen to when you're on the road? I know you like to pick your music for the videos and have mentioned before you put a lot of work into what you find, but what do you like to listen to when you aren't working on that? That is also a fascinating question because, well, I am a person who enjoys a wide variety of music. So I really like to pick my playlist based on my mood. I also like to just go to my Apple Music and push shuffle and see what comes up, and occasionally I find some new hidden gems. But a lot of times, especially if I am driving in a place that is really like flat and bleak, I try to like ump myself up because otherwise you can fall under highway hypnosis, and no one needs that. A lot of times if I'm on a rough terrain road, I might put on something a little bit louder because, you know, it kind of fits. If you see it on my video, you probably are thinking, ooh, you do put a lot of effort into the sounds that you pick, but I am the person who has a running soundtrack in my head at all times. So visually, whenever I shoot something, I'm probably already experiencing some version of the music that you are seeing when it comes to you. Now, when I'm not filming at all, I still do that. So a lot of times I will have a very diverse grouping, everything from folk music to a little bit of hip hop. I like classical, a little bit of everything. I just like to appreciate talent when there is talent in things. So I hope that that answers your question. For the next question, we go to the Camping Queen, who asks, I will be sharing more hiking this summer. Yes, I will. I will be attending the GoPro Mountain Games alongside Mountain House, and from there I'm hoping to go up to Wyoming, and then a little bit later this year I'll go to the Pacific Northwest. All of those areas have gorgeous hiking. So I plan on doing some more hiking trails and sharing them in the hiking playlist that will be mentioned somewhere in the description of this video. Now the Camping Queen also asked what has changed the most for me since I started traveling, and a lot of things go into that one. In fact, I would say that if you looked at my life 5 years ago versus now, it is night and day. There's so much difference between where I was and where I am, and I consider that to be a positive thing. That means we have had growth, and we're all about growth here on the channel. But more importantly, I think that if you look at my travel style, it has also changed. So this is a multi-part kind of answer, and so let's tackle a little bit of that. First and foremost, when I started out my channel, I was in a very different position in my life. I was working in a regular, traditional 9-to-5 structure, and every single day I had a very specific routine. I also had a lot of friends that I went out with constantly and just did things with them, but I was kind of in a little bubble. I lived in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and I didn't really leave the Dallas-Fort Worth area very often. And so whenever I took to the road and bravely dared myself to do something different, I was shocked at how many things I actually could do. I had always thought of myself as a person who could do some things, but I never really realized my full potential until I really got out there and started having to do things that were uncomfortable. Now, when I say uncomfortable, it's not just that I went and I took the first 3 years in a tent. No, that wasn't it. It was the fact that when you're in a vehicle, you have to find where you're going to stay. You have to figure out what you're going to do. There's no one setting your schedule for you. And that can be a little weird starting out. So I had a lot of adapting to do along the way. Now, if I look at that person now from the person that I am in this physical space with you guys today, I am so proud of that person for being brave enough to do what it is that I do. Because looking back on it 5 years later, I am happy, I am healthy, I am excited about life, and I'm talking to you guys while making a wonderful, delicious Mountain House meal. The perspective has definitely changed for me. I don't have to be in a hurry all the time. I don't have to be stressed out all the time. I allow myself to challenge myself and know that I am my biggest critic. And there's nothing in the world that can do more harm to me than myself. And I know that. A lot of times when we're stuck in a bubble, we don't realize that, and we let all of these outside influences be the things that dominate how we feel about us. But once we realize that we physically have the power to shape how we feel every day, it's huge. And being on the road for 5 years has taught me that. Okay, we're getting some bubbles. We're getting some bubbles. We're almost to a boil, and that will be so good. Now for our next question, Travel Bug asks, would I consider sharing more theme parks? Absolutely. I love to just experience different things throughout life, and I kind of go where the wind takes me. If you guys are interested in theme parks, I'll share some more. I don't have a problem. I'm always around them, so why not? I love a good fun day, and who knows? Maybe that means that I could take along a friend. Now, Bradley Miller asked a question that so many people ask me. Bradley Miller asked, what do I do for a living? Well, his exact words were, what kind of job do I have while traveling? Or is YouTube my exclusive job? It is not, guys. I know a lot of people want to paint the picture and illusion that YouTube is the be-all, end-all of all financial things. But realistically, they're top 1% maybe. However, the average everyday person can make a decent living, but at the same time isn't making the most of their money doing that. In fact, I've talked to you guys previously about income stacking. I think it's super important, especially if you're a nomad. It gives you just more options for you to be able to financially make money so that you're not reliant on just one. I think that this is so important because a lot of times as we are traveling and as we are doing things, there's going to be a lot of different variables. And having one constant steady paycheck is great. Until it isn't. A lot of people found themselves in a really bad position in 2020 whenever they were sitting at home thinking outside of the box of what could they do, and they thought, I only have skills that are these. And they didn't know how to think outside of that box as to how those skills could actually be many things other than the physical thing that they were doing at that moment. Now, I always tell people, if you have a skill set, explore all of the options of things you can do within that. For example, I started out as a journalist. A lot of you don't know this, but I actually used to own a small town newspaper. So I have a journalism background. I also worked in professional sports. And so I took the talents that I had gained in those and started to apply them into things that I do now. For example, one of the things I do is YouTube, and that allows me to use the video editing skills that I've learned along the way, in addition to presenting to you guys with the skills that I had acquired along the way. However, I also take that content and I turn it into relatable news posts that I can share with various news medias. That's one of my other incomes. I also do graphic design, which you've probably seen on my channel through some of my merch, but I don't just exclusively do it for myself, I do it for others. I also work with various programs and affiliates and things like that, and so you guys get to see a very surface level version of what I do when you see a YouTube video. There's a lot behind the scenes that happens to put gas in the tank, guys. I'm just saying. But I encourage you guys to find multiple streams just like that. Maybe not the exact same things because you have different skills than I do, but find the skills that you have and capitalize on them. There's only one of you in your corner, so be your own advocate. Find things that make you happy, that bring you joy. Don't get stuck just doing the, oh, this is hard, I have to put in too much work, or oh, I'm never gonna find the right job so I can't do this. If you get into that mentality, then you miss out on all the experiences. Sometimes you just have to be creative. But to answer your question, Bradley, no. YouTube is not my only income. Erica Zeller asked, when am I coming back to the Smokies? She said there's lots of new things and she'd love to see how I cover them. Well, I would love to come back to the Smokies, but there's something going on in Tennessee right now about public camping that I'm keeping my eye on a little bit first. They just passed some kind of interesting new thing that I'm still in the researching phase of. And in doing so, it says public camping can now be punishable as a crime. Now, I know this is to mitigate homelessness in the area. However, it will impact nomads that live in vans as well, as of the vagueness of the reading that I saw. So I'm gonna wait for that to play out just a little bit before I make a return trip, because I don't want the smoke, guys. I don't want the smoke. Okay, we're now to a rolling boil, so it's time. There's a little slit on the side of a Mountain House meal, and what we're gonna do is we're just gonna open that up. Now, this is the breakfast skillet. The breakfast skillet is my absolute go-to morning favorite because it's just so simple and you can serve it in a variety of ways. You can eat it right out of the pouch, which is awesome. Or you can take it and put it onto little soft tacos and have little soft tacos in the morning. Super, super good. I also have found that you can take croissants, and after you've cooked this, you can put it into the Ridge Monkey with the croissant crust and make just like a little hand pie. Oh my goodness, so good. So this breakfast skillet right here has shredded potatoes, scrambled eggs, and it's mixed with pork sausage, pepper, and onions, and it is freeze dried. Now, something that we just tore off, it is certified as gluten-free. You can see that right there. And this is one of those meals that all you do is you add water and it's about 10 minutes to make. So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna reach in here. They have a little oxygen absorber that you need to remove. So we're just gonna set that to the side. Ooh, yeah. Okay guys, here's all the yummy goodness. You can see that there are large chunks inside, like this egg right here. There's some sausage. You can see the little potatoes. And of course it has the seasoning in here also. So this is what it looks like before the water. And of course, before we pour the water in, let's go ahead and look at the nutrition facts. It is a 260 calorie single serving, or 510 per container. And then there are a few other things in here. Now, one of the things that many of you have asked me is about the sodium levels. Now, whenever you have a freeze-dried meal, they are going to be higher in sodium. The reason why they do this though is so it will preserve it for a longer amount of time. The shelf life on these things is like 10 years. So it's gonna last quite a while. This is great though, because whenever you are using this in an active lifestyle, you're needing to replenish the sodium levels in your body. And so after a hike or before a hike, this is a great way for you to do that. Okay, the water is boiling hot. So we're gonna turn this off and we're going to bring out this. This is my favorite camping item for eating. This is a morsel, and I have had this for probably 3 years now, and I love it because it's perfect for these kind of meals. Now, they have other brands that also have this same concept where they have like the silicone edge, and what the silicone edge does is it scrapes in and gets every little bit of the pouch completely and totally cleaned out, so you get every ounce of the food out, which is awesome. But it also has this fork end, so I can use it for other things around camp. So love, love, love this thing. Love, love, love it. But I'm gonna set it down right now, and then we're going to take this and we're going to eyeball it. Now, on the back of this, it says that we need to add 1 1/4 cup. So here we go. I have done this enough times that I'm pretty good at this. Okay, now that we've added that, we're gonna take our morsel and just kind of stir it in to make sure that the water coats all of the product inside. Ooh, just the smell. Whenever you put the water inside, it activates all of that deliciousness. Okay, so we're gonna pour just a little bit more. It's almost there. Whoop, whoop, there we go. Okay. Now, one of the things that I like to do next is I scrape the sides completely just to make sure. And then we take this out and, you know, we lick it because that's what we do. Because that's the best part. Oh, that's good. Oh, that's good, that's good, that's good, that's good. Oh yeah. So now we need to seal the bag. Now, while we were looking inside the bag a while ago, you might have noticed that there is this little track in here. It's a seal track. So we're just gonna squish it into place. Boom. Boom, done. Okay, so now we wait. According to the back of the bag, it says that we wait about 5 minutes and then we're going to stir. And then we're going to give it about 5 more minutes, then we'll be able to eat. So 5 minutes is set on my phone. We will be waiting for that. Oh, so excited right now. And let's do a few more questions. Our next question comes from Blondie's RV Adventure. She asks, what advice would you give someone wanting to start YouTube? Where do I start? My first piece of advice for you guys would be probably the most obvious. If you are interested in doing a YouTube, do it. Just get out there, start recording, do something that makes you happy. Now, the reason I say this is because there are so many people out there who have so many pieces of great information, but they're afraid to share. And each of us are so unique and different. There are no two YouTubers that are exactly the same, and even people who are within the same niche, such as, for example, me and Lady Bug Out. Our content is completely different because we have a different perspective. And that's what makes it important for you guys, if you're interested in starting a YouTube channel, to just get out there and start it, because you have something within you that only you have. Now, with that said though, YouTube is a very fickle platform sometimes, and in fact it can be quite challenging. The main thing that you want to focus on when you're starting your channel is coming up with a name that is going to be easily searchable. In fact, Bunny Plays Here is a little bit of a hard one because it doesn't really relate to the travel space, so I really had to be out there for some time before some of you guys even found me. In addition, you want to make sure that you take your time in establishing what it is that you want to do. For example, if you want to do travel related content, what kind of travel related content? Are you going to be posting videos once a week, every day? What are your ideas? Think about all of this before you initially start the channel, because you want to have consistency. YouTube rewards consistency. So if you're wanting to start a channel, coming out with a plan of action before and a good name is where you need to definitely begin. Now, there's a lot more that we could go into this on, but that would be a whole video and it would take over. But I hope that that's helpful. Starting out by your branding and then figuring out your upload schedule of what you want to be sharing are the two main keys to starting your channel. Now, next up, Sherry Mossius asks, how do you narrow down your itinerary? How long do you generally stay in one area before moving on? And how do you plan the cost of your destinations? Do you ever go over on budget? So several questions there, so let's tackle the first one. When it comes to figuring out my itinerary, I usually point my van in direction and just go. I might have one, maybe two larger destinations in mind, but for the most part, I like to go where the travels take me so I can discover things along the way. You've probably noticed on my channel previously in several different videos that I often talk about getting on the highway and just finding a brown sign. I really like that method of travel, guys. I really do. I also understand that it's not feasible for most people to just kind of meander the way that I do if they're not in the same nomadic lifestyle. So my thing that I would say with narrowing the itinerary is finding big destinations and then allowing yourself enough flexibility to kind of find things around that, but not to have a full-on, I have to be here at this time. Because a lot of times, because you've never been to places, you end up shortchanging yourself on time and then wish you could have stayed over a little bit longer, but might already have a reservation at something else. So you miss out on part of the opportunity when you overplan. For part two of this, you asked how long I usually stay in one area, and I typically move pretty rapidly. I have a lot of different things that I like to do, and so I like to always be on the move. The most that I'll typically sit in a place is maybe a week. And that's only if I have tons of stuff that I want to do in that area, and so I have to spend that much time there. Otherwise, I like to constantly be on the go, trying out new things, seeing new things. And so sitting to me is not my main priority at this time. Now, I have sat. Let's not forget, I do go to events, and during those events, I physically, most of the time, stay in one place. However, whenever I am out on my own travels, typically I just don't sit still very long. Now, when it comes to how I plan the cost of my destinations, that is also kind of a question mark. I know these are not the answers people want to hear. They want everything to be regimented. But in real life land, because I go with the flow, I have basic things that I know how much that they cost. Usually those are my planned destinations. So for example, if I know for a fact I am going to Denver, I am going to the Denver Meow Wolf. I already know how much that ticket costs because I've already looked into it, just to make sure that I can go, that they're not doing reservations. I like to pre-plan on those kinds of things because they're things I truly just want to do. But other things I'm more lax on. So a lot of times I will prioritize my day based on how much that I'm spending because I ultimately know how much that I have in my bank account as a whole. I always try to leave myself a nice little buffer zone in there, so as long as it doesn't go into that buffer, I am fine. We are good. I also don't spend as much money as most of you guys probably think I do. Now, believe it or not, guys, I take my own advice. Whenever I'm telling you guys to find free campsites, that's because I too like to find free campsites. A lot of times I can stretch my journeys longer and to more places if I find economical ways to kind of cut corners. And again, free campsites are a good way to do that. Now, I don't mind paying for a good campsite. In fact, I have a few state parks that I would prefer to stay at than the free options that are nearby. However, I also do that with other things that I'm doing. If I find a good free site, I will give it a shot. I will let it have a moment to breathe in this atmosphere of happiness, and usually I have a blast there. But then I'll also go to paid attractions. But I know that those paid attractions, especially in tourism areas, are going to cost a bit more. So I try to look them up. I try to weigh the possibilities of where it is that I can save money, and then I'll go do those. And typically I can have a very enjoyable experience in a location for a very minimum amount of money. Don't worry, guys, you'll get the hang of it. It took me some time to figure out all of these things, and I try to share little bits and pieces of it with you guys to help you out as I can, because I know I've been there whenever you're trying to make the most epic adventure out of a very minuscule budget, and I completely understand. In fact, I always want to make all of the places that I go accessible to others by sharing the information so that you guys can make those kind of choices. So I hope that's helpful. Okay guys, it is now time to open this up. Ooh, and now it's time for us to stir. Oh, this is gonna be so good. So good. Okay, and again, we can lick the spoon or the fork morsel. We'll just say the morsel. Now for our next question, Clinton Carsley asks, what is my biggest regret in travel so far? And would I change anything? I think that I'm one of those people who has always said that I learn from my mistakes so I don't make them again. So without those, I wouldn't have learned the things that I have. So I wouldn't change anything. However, I have made a couple mistakes. For example, I overestimated tennis shoes on a hiking trail and ended up sliding down a mountain. That was super fun. I went up a mountain after a first snow not thinking about it, and I ended up sliding down in my car slightly and having to call a tow truck. You know, it's not always been super smooth sailing on the channel. However, through each one of those things that have happened, I have learned a little bit about myself and how I personally overcome things, but also how I roll with the punches, and I think that that's important. So I really like that question, Clinton, and I hope that that sheds a little bit of the insight as to how I kind of think about things. Now, Schooly Dreams asked if I prefer to travel solo or with friends. And I think there's value in both. The vast majority of the first 3 years that I traveled by myself, and I really enjoyed it. However, with that, when I finally found my van community, it really changed how I feel about travel and seeing the world. I now have people that understand what I do and understand how I travel, and they like to do similar things. So because we're all in this weird nomad world, we get to meet up in certain places and go on these grand adventures, which are so much fun. Not to mention the community aspect of just having people who relate to what you do. It really does change the way that you think about very common things. A lot of us, whenever we're in a sticks and bricks, we have that because we have friends, we have neighbors, we have coworkers and things like that. But you don't think about what happens when you walk away from all that and start afresh in a brand new world, which is what I did. It was wild, guys. For 3 years, I had a lot of soul searching, a lot of like work that I did for myself, and I would not change a bit of that. But I am very, very grateful to have found my nomad community. So to answer that, I do love solo travel, but the friendships that I have forged and the traveling that I get to do as a result is absolutely my favorite. Archie Overlander, you want to know if I would ever consider doing an off-road vehicle kind of video? Yeah, I would. Not in Dimples. I think that would be great, actually. I think it would be super fun, especially like in Colorado where you can rent one of those Jeeps and just... I think that'd be super fun, and I would definitely be game for that. Now, Marvin DeCampo, you asked me a question that is hot on everyone's mind right now. What is the highest I have ever paid for gasoline? Now, I have been fortunate because I do not travel in California a lot, and clearly the gas prices are higher there, but the highest that I have ever paid was $5.02. $5.02, and it was in the middle of nowhere. It was the only gas station for miles, and they knew it. And it wasn't even in California. I'm just gonna say this. When people have a monopoly on something and they know it, they charge their coin, that's for sure. Now, Travel Logistics asks a very good question. Do I ever travel with people who you guys don't see on my channel? Yes, I do. I do pretty frequently. Sometimes people just don't want to be on the YouTube channel, and that is fine. I would prefer not to put them in an uncomfortable position. With that said though, a lot of the people that I do travel with do YouTube. You guys have seen many of my friends. Lady Bugout, for example, she travels with me pretty frequently. Riley Does Life, also on the road with me in a lot of different adventures. But a lot of our other friends also have YouTube channels. In fact, I'm going to leave a list of different friends that you can follow in the description of this video so you can go check out some new channels if you haven't already seen them. I think you'll really enjoy them. However, to answer your question, yes, I do travel with others. I just try to respect their boundaries of not putting them on my channel. So I think that that's a really good thing to kind of focus on and practice as a YouTuber. Now, Road Bandit asks, do I have a code with Mountain House? And yes, I do. I actually will be providing it in the description box of this video in case you're interested, since we are making our delicious Mountain House breakfast, which, by the way, guys, it's ready. We should go and eat. Now, of course, today I'm not able to get to all of the questions, but I am doing another Q&A with you guys. Some more of the things that you have asked here on my most recent community post for Q&As, but now it is time for us to dig in. I am so excited. Again, this is my favorite Mountain House breakfast. This is the Breakfast Skillet, and look, guys, it is all done. It is happy. It is delicious, and the only thing that it is missing is to be in my tummy. So without further ado, let's go ahead and dig in. Now, oh yeah, it is so perfect. And this is a filling, delicious breakfast, that's for sure. It's one of my favorite things to do around camp in the morning because, as you see, it takes about 10 minutes to make it, but then it is delicious. And the thing that I really like, if I can't eat it all, I can seal it back up, put it in my fridge, and just reheat it later. Woohoo! Not to mention, these pouches right here are recyclable. So this, unlike a lot of the waste that I'll end up with along the road from shopping at a box store, I can actually send into this place called TerraCycles, and they will recycle them, which is so, so neat. So I love that. But this is delicious, and I'm gonna keep eating for just a couple minutes because, you know, hunger and stuff, but, oh yeah. Okay guys, I hope you have enjoyed coming along with me for making this wonderful Mountain House breakfast. It's one of my favorites, and again, I will have my code in the description box below. Also with the Q&A, thank you guys so much for sending in so many awesome questions that I need to make a part 2. So in the very near future, we'll get together and talk about some of the more personal questions that you guys have asked me about being on the road in a van. And I think that you'll really be kind of delighted to hear some of those answers because whoo-hoo, some of them are good. Until next time guys, bye!